My name is Alex, and I spend a lot of time studying the behavioral and psychological side of personal finance, why people with the same resources produce wildly different financial outcomes, and what the internal patterns are that drive those differences. What I'm about to share isn't motivation, it's architecture. The way you think about money is a structure, and structures can be rebuilt. Before we go any further, I want to address the language here. When I say rich mindset and poor mindset, I'm not talking about wealthy people versus poor people. I'm not making a judgment about anyone's circumstances. I'm describing two fundamentally different psychological orientations toward money that exist at every income level. There are people earning $200,000 a year with a poor mindset, spending everything, trapped in a cycle that can't see. And there are people earning $45,000 a year with a rich mindset, quietly building real financial security, month after month, with a clarity and intentionality that most high earners never develop. The mindset is not about the number, it's about the relationship. And the reason this matters so deeply is that your mindset determines your behavior. Your behavior determines your habits, and your habits, compounded over time, determine your financial destiny. Let's look at how they differ. The first and most fundamental difference, how each mindset relates to time. The poor mindset is present-focused, almost exclusively. When a financial decision comes up, spend or save, invest or consume, the poor mindset calculates the immediate. What does this cost me right now? What do I get right now? What feels right now? The rich mindset calculates the future first. What does this decision cost me in 10 years? What does this choice produce if I let time work on it? What is the true price of this moment compounded? This is not about being cheap, it's about time horizon, and the gap between these two calculations is enormous. Someone who thinks in decades sees a $500 purchase as a $500 choice right now, but also as $3,500 of future wealth foregone if that $500 had been invested and compounded at 8% over 25 years. They don't always choose not to spend, but they always know what the choice actually costs. The person trapped in present-focused thinking never runs that calculation. Every dollar is evaluated only for what it buys today. And over a lifetime of daily, present-focused decisions, the wealth gap between these two orientations becomes staggering. Time is the variable. The mindset determines whether you use it or ignore it. The second difference, how each mindset relates to income. The poor mindset treats income as the solution. If I just earned more, everything would change. More income means more security. More income means more freedom. The ceiling is always income. The rich mindset treats income as a tool. A tool is only as useful as the skill of the person using it. Here's the pattern that proves this. Studies on consumer behavior show that when income rises, spending rises in near-perfect lockstep, regardless of the income level. A person earning $50,000 feels broke. A person earning $150,000 feels broke. A person earning $500,000, you'd be shocked how many of them feel broke. The lifestyle adjusts, the feeling doesn't change. The rich mindset understands that income without financial architecture is like water poured into sand. It disappears no matter how much you add. So instead of asking, how do I earn more, the rich mindset asks a second question first. How do I make what I have work better? And that second question, applied consistently, is what separates people who build wealth from people who earn it and lose it simultaneously. The third difference, how each mindset relates to risk. This one surprises most people. The common assumption is that rich people take more risks and poor people play it safe, but that's almost exactly backwards. The poor mindset is actually risk-averse in a very specific and destructive way. It avoids financial discomfort in the short term, avoiding investment, avoiding learning, avoiding change, while unconsciously accepting the enormous long-term risk of doing nothing. Not investing is a risk. Keeping money in a savings account at 0.5% while inflation runs at 3% is a guaranteed loss. Not developing financial skills is a risk. The comfortable feeling path is often the most dangerous one over any meaningful timeline.
The rich mindset, by contrast, is risk-aware rather than risk-averse. It distinguishes between unintelligent risk, speculative, impulsive, emotional, and intelligent risk, which is calculated, researched, and taken with a clear understanding of the downside. And here's what's critical. The rich mindset gets comfortable being uncomfortable in the short term because it understands that short-term discomfort is almost always the price of long-term stability. Every skill you develop that makes you financially uncomfortable at first, investing, budgeting, negotiating, learning something you've been avoiding, pays dividends for decades. Comfort now is often the most expensive thing you'll ever choose. Let me stop here and talk about why these patterns are so hard to change, because the answer matters. These mindsets are not chosen consciously, they were installed. The way you think about money today is largely a product of what you observed, heard, felt, and absorbed about money before you were 12 years old. The financial psychology of the adults around you, their stress, their secrecy, their spending, their conversations, was being recorded by your developing brain and encoded as the normal relationship with money. That encoding becomes your default, which means changing your money mindset isn't about motivation or willpower. It's about interrupting an automatic process and replacing it with a deliberate one. Every time you catch a poor mindset pattern, every time you notice yourself making a present-focused calculation, or waiting for more income before taking action, or avoiding financial discomfort, that moment of noticing is everything. Because you can't change a pattern you can't see. The most powerful financial work most people will ever do isn't picking a better stock, it's learning to recognize their own money psychology in real time and making a different choice. The fourth difference, how each mindset talks about money. Language is not decoration, language is architecture. Listen to the statements the poor mindset generates. Money doesn't grow on trees. Rich people are greedy. I could never afford that. Investing is for people who have money. I'm just not good with money. We'll never get ahead. These are not just comments, they are instructions to the brain. Every time you say, "I'm not good with money," your brain files that as an identity statement, and people act in accordance with their identity, automatically, without thinking. The rich mindset generates fundamentally different language. How can I afford that? Not, I can't afford that. The first is a question that activates problem solving. The second closes the door entirely. What does this investment teach me, rather than investing is risky? How do I grow this, rather than this is all I have? This is not positive thinking as a spiritual practice. This is a functional difference in the way the brain processes possibility. When you ask a question, the brain searches for answers. When you make a closed statement, it stops looking. The words you use about money are either opening doors or locking them, and you have complete control over which ones you choose. The fifth, and the one that quietly determines everything else, how each mindset relates to ownership and responsibility. The poor mindset externalizes financial outcomes. The economy is rigged. The system is designed against me. My boss doesn't pay me enough. I didn't get the right opportunities. The timing was wrong. And here's the uncomfortable part. Some of that is true. Systems are imperfect. Opportunity is not equally distributed. Circumstances matter. But here's what's also true. External blame, even when justified, produces zero forward movement. The rich mindset takes radical ownership, not because the system is fair, it often isn't, not because circumstances don't matter, they do, but because ownership is the only psychological position from which you can actually improve your situation. The moment you say, "This is within my control and I will act on it," even if the problem was partially created by something outside you, you reclaim agency. And agency is the engine of every financial improvement ever made. This doesn't mean denying reality. It means choosing the psychological stance that actually produces results. You cannot change what you don't own, and you can't own what you've blamed on someone else. So, how do you actually move from one mindset to the other? Not through a weekend seminar, not through a motivational video, through deliberate, consistent practice in 4 areas. First, extend your time horizon deliberately. When you make a financial decision, ask yourself what this choice looks like in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. Run the compound math. Let the future become real. Second, audit your money language. For 1 week, write down every statement you make about money. Notice which ones are closed and which open possibilities. Consciously replace the closed ones. Third, get comfortable with financial discomfort. Choose one thing that feels financially uncomfortable, open an investment account, negotiate a bill, learn something you've been avoiding, and do it once. The discomfort breaks at first contact. Fourth, take ownership of one financial outcome this week. Not all of them, just one. Identify one area where you've been blaming external factors and ask, what can I do differently here, regardless of what someone else does? These 4 practices, repeated over time, don't just change your finances, they change the architecture of how you think. Here's what I want. The gap between the person who builds wealth and the person who doesn't is almost never what it looks like from the outside. It's not the big salary. It's not the perfect investment. It's not the right timing. It's 1,000 small moments, day after day, month after month, where someone caught their own thinking, asked a better question, took a longer view, and made a slightly different choice than their default would have produced. Those moments don't look like wealth, not in the beginning. They look like discipline. They look like patience. They look like choices that nobody around you is making. But they compound. Thoughts compound into habits. Habits compound into behaviors. Behaviors compound into outcomes. And outcomes, accumulated over decades, are what people call wealth. The money is downstream of the mindset, always. The people who understand that, who do the invisible work of rebuilding how they think before they worry about what they own, those are the ones who wake up one day and realize the gap between where they started and where they are is not an accident. It was a decision made quietly, over time, in the architecture of their own mind. That architecture is yours to build. Start today.